Hi, Mike Kennedy. Drones in the military. Uh, it seems like, there's always been quite a long time they even had drones in the military. But we're talking about here small things that people can effectively use, to accomplish some tasks. And I wish I could remember what year it was, but I really don't. But one of the first things I saw about the military having a drone, this guy had this, it looked like a large gliding plane, and he actually launched it, but the thing had a camera on it or whatever. It went out and surveyed, and then it came back to him. I don't know whether it was autonomous or not. There wasn't that much information on this clip, but I just remember it. But with the advent of drones that are more like a helicopter than they are an airplane, it gives them a lot of usability and maneuverability that, a plane type drone didn't have. And, we're not talking now about, there are drones, unmanned drones, that are more like a plane again, and they carry missiles and all kinds of things like that. But that's a fairly large thing, and costs a lot of money, but can be very effective still. And, our military uses them. But it seems to me, in Afghanistan, the enemy started using drones in such a way just to drop an explosive or a hand grenade. In other words, they're using some kind of commercial drone. All it has to do is be heavy duty enough to pick up some object that you want to drop later on, and you have to be able to maneuver it well so it actually drops where you want it. And sometimes you could make it a kamikaze one, in that you get it somewhere, then you'd activate an explosion and the thing would explode. But now this has been really, really refined. And the example of it, they're doing some of these technology videos on modern warfare, and they're using Israel as an example. And so they have this drone, and I could be wrong, they're not showing it super detailed, but it's more like a box. It looks like it's about 2 feet long, and one man can carry it, one man can operate it, and basically you're operating it, you're getting a video. So you could take this thing here. You have a soldier, he's in a very forward position as opposed to the main part of the military, but with this drone he can do surveillance. He can go around, see what's happening, and this drone can carry 350 grams, which is, let's just say that's 3/4 of a pound of high explosives. And so what this can do is, of course, like I say, they can be just used for observation, but then they can be used also. In this case, they were showing it going into a room. They had a building, and this thing went into the room and exploded. And the idea with this amount of explosion, it could basically destroy the contents of any room, of course, including people that might be in there, but any other type of thing, computers or whatever, weapons caches and things like that, and destroy them. It also could, the explosion was enough to destroy a vehicle too. So these are very pinpointed type of weapons, but they can be highly effective because you've launched it and you can look around, and that's extremely valuable. I believe we go back in time, at least in America, in the Civil War, people put people up in kites. They had large kites, and we put them up in a kite, and they would see the enemy positions. And that was really good, You like to know what's going on with the enemy. Well, so now with these drones and everything, it's amazing what they can do. Yeah, we have satellite photographs and things like that, but this, being able to get a drone that basically can go down and look at things even, could look at a building and buzz around it once or whatever. You can see in the windows and different things like that. and deliver this amount of high explosive. Uh, that's an advantage for a soldier to be carrying that. And it's not something everybody will carry, but some of the people that are in these forward positions may actually do it. And they were saying that this drone is being used by the Israeli military. Now, this one they were talking about, it sounded like they had done like 90% of the technology for it. And some of the things are shared technology between the United States and Israel working together. But most of it, I get the impression, was based on the work that the Israelis did. But it's just a very effective sort of thing because, like I say, you go and you see where people are, what they're doing, and you can make decisions on that. And warfare it's kind of odd because warfare is different in a lot of ways now. We don't end up just going in a hand-by-hand combat thing usually. We do missiles, we do drones, we do all kinds of things, bombs from planes. A lot of wars are basically, they go in, they do the air raids, Israel's been doing that, and they'll drop bombs on 400 Hamas sites, and so then the foot soldiers go in, and there's not a lot of resistance after that's happened. And one thing they showed too is they were talking about the high precision the missiles the Israelis have, and they basically had this. I want to say maybe it was looked like it was a 4x8 target, maybe a piece of plywood, whatever, and from whatever distance it was, it hit that exactly, and fairly in the middle too. So the idea that you can pinpoint something exactly and destroy it means less civilian casualties, less destruction, and just having a more guaranteed sense that you're actually taking out what you want to take out. Now, of course, the big problem is that Hamas uses people as human shields. And there was this big thing about, Israel hit a hospital, and there was all this raving about it. And, well, when they actually looked at the case, it wasn't a hospital at all. It was a parking lot, and underneath the parking lot was a bunch of these Hamas tunnels. And when the Israeli hit that, there are Hamas people who died. If you're in a tunnel, when the tunnel collapses, that's it, you're out of it. But this whole idea of Israel would like to have as few civilian casualties as possible on both sides, and Hamas wants large casualties on their side, and they want them on the Israeli side, but they can't effectively do that because they're so overmatched with military things. But Hamas, is already saying, well, you killed 4,000 of our children so far, and we didn't kill that many of your children. And it's like, well, you give a 12-year-old rifle and tell him to go up and shoot someone, he's gonna get shot. But I guess routinely a lot of these military people that Hamas gets and uses, they're like 16-year-olds. And you can see at that age people are impressionable. They, you can hype them up and lie to them and think they're going to be invincible, and all of these things. But they have a large children percentage of fighting forces, and like I say, they want them to be killed because they want to be able to say, oh, look at this. Over the course of this conflict, we killed 680 of your children, and you killed 6,000 of ours. Well, again, you give a kid a grenade launcher, or bazooka, or a rifle, or you dress them up in military clothing, you set them out there in the battlefield, you know exactly what's going to happen. And Hamas knows that, but like I say, they don't care. They want those numbers big. I mean, also, Israel's taking the unprecedented step of saying, we're hitting this city next. You people in the city leave. Okay, so it's like, how many enemies like give you a call and say, we're coming into your neighborhood, you should leave soon. But that's what Israeli does, and sometimes the exit roads are patrolled by Hamas, and they're basically going to shoot you if you try to cross over. They want you there. They want you in the conflict area. They want to create this human shield type thing, and so they are going to put their tunnels under schools and hospitals and things like that, because they're looking for that public opinion aspect. Because, see, Hamas can't really win militarily. It just can't. And at this point, even, okay, Hezbollah, backed by Iran, they have a lot of weapons, but they got to be very careful, because Israel has nuclear weapons. They don't. So they could go to Israel into such a situation that they feel they have to do a major strike against Iran. And, you can imagine what, 2 or 3 nuclear blasts would do in Iran. Probably would start World War III too, but it would be something, the people in Iran would never forget. And even the religious zealots or the military wouldn't forget. And so there's this hedging to some degree that Iran's it's like the proxy war, kind of like what we're doing in the Ukraine. We're giving them the weapons, the military knowledge, the money, and then they're using it and killing their people and Russians with it. Well, it's kind of what Iran is doing to some degree, but they have to be more careful, because it's only gonna, if they trigger the Israelis to a point, it's going to be really bad, because the weapons the Israeli military that are just so much more powerful, accurate, everything about them are better that the Israelis have, and they could easily push a button and the capital city of Iran is going to be gone. And the bombs and things, the missiles and some of the stuff that Iran has doesn't do that. And they try to make up by quantity what they don't have in quality. So they send over thousands of missiles. Well, they're all getting shot down, but you can see that eventually missiles could be depleted in Israel. Not that more aren't being sent or whatever, but you could see how that could get imbalance. But again, that's dangerous, because again, if the Israelis were to think and say, gee, the rate we're going here, I'm just going to make this up, by December 17th, we won't have any more missiles left, because Iran is doing this. And it would be like, there would be a big pressure then to retaliate against Iran in such a way that it could no longer send missiles to Hamas. And again, I think Iran knows that, so again, they're trying to be very careful about it. And it's just kind of this, it's more of a PR war. I mean, people are still getting killed on both sides, but Hamas wants to create this completely false and ridiculous thing that this is all Israel's fault. And it's like, oh no, these poor people in Palestine, not even Palestine, there's no such thing as Palestine. There never was. People in Gaza, they elected them for their government 11 years ago. Now, someone said it was only 40% of the vote, but somehow with the voting system, I don't know if they have something like the Electoral College or whatever, but anyway, they elected Hamas, and now they're paying for it. I mean, it's like, you can't, get in league with terrorists and not expect that you're going to see some terror yourselves. Them getting the promise of, oh yes, we'll get rid of these Israelis, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Well, doesn't look it. it's going to be free of Arabs. That's what it's going to be free of, and uh, it's just really unfortunate. But you know, so, and people don't know the history of the areas. The two-state solution that was offered, you know, back when they formed Israel, and they didn't want any part of it. I mean, why you cannot bargain with or work with terrorists? Their only objective is to exterminate every Jew off the face of the earth. That's it. That's their plan. And nothing other than that is going to satisfy them. Now, you can find moderate Muslims who, you know, are really tired of this fighting and would like to just live in peace. Yeah, there are people like that. And I'm sure there's a lot of people like that in some of these Muslim countries, but those countries, you don't get to complain about what the government's doing. Like our country, you know, have parades and all these other things. You know, especially if it's a theocracy, in other words, it's a religious government, and the guy that's on the top is supposed to be this, you know, like Pope-like figure, expressing anything against the government is seen as, you know, a direct blasphemy against Allah, the name they have for God, and could get you killed, executed. So, I mean, it's very tricky, but, you know, and there have been periods where it looked like things were going to go better in the Middle East, but it's all, you know, there's always these terrorists. Now, if I think Israel will effectively destroy Hamas, how long would it take Hamas to form as an organization again after this? A really long time. But see, it doesn't have to, because Hezbollah will step in. You know, so you get rid of one group, there's another group. So then they'll have to do that. But I like to say, we're in much higher stakes every year when these things go on, because eventually Iran will have a nuclear weapon, or have several, and then Israel may decide, I could see their point of, you know, if a conflict like this is going on and they know that the people in Iran are getting close to a weapon, they do a preemptive strike of the facility so they won't have the weapon. But anyway, that's kind of off the topic of just this amazing idea of the drone. There's so many uses for drones with sensing equipment. One that I saw was one of the gold rush shows. There was this area, and there was supposedly an old riverbed there. And so they hired this guy with a drone that had ground penetrating radar, and it looked at the land, and it could tell where the older river was, and by the shape of it, they could look at that and pick some test holes where they wanted to drill and see if they find gold or not. But they didn't go back there after that, so I assume they didn't find any. But if you have a river is narrow, then it gets wide. What happens is it's faster moving water in the narrow parts, and it's carrying more sediment, and as it widens out, it starts moving slower, and the sediment falls out. So that area between a small and a large, that area would be where gold would drop out of solution. They're not even solution, I shouldn't say that. The particles would no longer be dragged along, and they'd fall out of the water and onto the riverbed. And sometimes the bends in rivers do that too. So having that ground penetrating radar gave them a lot of information, but in this particular case, I guess it didn't help them that much. But it's just interesting, a lot of things the drones are able to do. They've got the ground penetrating radar, they've got the LiDAR, they have just even infrared type things they look for. This one group was on TV, and they were going to be looking for gold deposits in this area. So what they did is they sent in, and this was an area that's quite hot, so they sent up a drone with infrared sensors, And you know, as the day kind of changed from light to dark, this went over and photographed the area, and there would be warm spots. And basically, those warm spots, it was assumed there was something metallic there in these spots, so they could make some decisions on where they would look for finding possible outcroppings of you know, gold or whatever they were looking for. Kind of interesting. That's it. I droned on about drones too long. Have a good Thanksgiving.